The Vignette Live filter layer in Affinity Photo is an easy and straightforward way to add a vignette to your image, but it is limited. You can't change the colors for one thing. You're stuck with white, black, or some shade of gray. It's always centered, even if that's not ideal. But there's a more flexible way to vignette with none of these limitations, and it's pretty darn easy and quick. Let me show you. I'll be using Affinity Photo version 2.0.3 for this tutorial. Here's our image. The first step is to add a fill layer. From the Layer menu, select New Fill Layer. The color of the new layer should be white. If it's not, you can change it over here. By default, the Gradient tool has been selected. That's this tool over here. It sounds scary and complicated, but it's easy to use. A gradient simply provides a smooth transition from one color to another. This will allow us to create a vignette. Start by positioning the mouse somewhere in the center of the fill layer. Pressing down on the mouse, draw it out to the right or left, up or down, it doesn't matter, and then release. This is your basic two-color gradient with two nodes. In this case, one node is white and the other is black. And here's the slider in the middle between the two nodes. I'll move it back and forth so you can see what it does. Let's change the gradient type to radial. You do that up here. There are several types. Radial and elliptical are best for vignettes. That's starting to look more like a vignette, but we still can't see our image. To do that, we need to change the blend mode for the new fill layer. Making sure the fill layer is selected, click here to bring down the list. There are many blend modes to choose from. It's easy to scroll through them and see what effect each has. Multiply is generally a good choice for a vignette, but depending on the image and what you're trying to achieve, other blend modes may be better. I'll choose multiply. Now we're getting somewhere. I would like the focal point of the vignette to be about 2/3 of the way up, around about here. I'll click on the white gradient node with the mouse and drag it to where I want the focal point to be. I can now adjust the vignette by grabbing the black node with the mouse and moving it around like so. I can also adjust the slider and the opacity of the fill layer to get it just right. You can also adjust the opacity of each of the gradient nodes by clicking here. Click on the node you want to adjust, and then use the opacity slider over here. For a reverse vignette, change the fill layer blend mode to Add or Screen. I'll use Add. Now we need to reverse the gradient. Do that by clicking here. And we can adjust the vignette as we did before. I'll click on Reverse Gradient again to change it back. And reset the blend mode to multiply. To create a vignette with a hard edge, we'll need to add a node to the gradient. Click anywhere on the gradient's arm between the two nodes like so. Using the mouse, pull the new node towards the outermost node until you achieve the desired hardness. You may have to move the outermost node in a bit. If you go too far, just move the node back in the other direction. You can now adjust the vignette by moving the outermost node. You can also make adjustments with the slider. Of course, you can move the center node at any time to change the focal point of the vignette. You can always come back later to adjust the vignette. Just select the vignette's fill layer in the Layers panel, and then select the Gradient tool. Now let's have some fun. Let's delete the fill layer by making sure it's selected and then clicking on the trash can. Now let's add a new fill layer and set its color to something amber-like. Now let's add a vignette. Drag out the gradient. Set gradient type to radial. And set the blend mode for the fill layer. I'll choose linear burn this time. I'll change the color of the outer gradient node to dark pink. I'll do that by first selecting the node by clicking on it. Now I can change its color over here. I'll also adjust the gradient. Let's try changing the opacity of the two gradient nodes. First the amber focal point node, and then the dark pink outer node. Well, that looks different. This way of adding a vignette puts you in complete control, far superior, in my opinion, than using the Vignette Live filter. Thank you for watching.